We're now inviting our colleagues onto the stage, experts from the Nafta College, with the participation of Lomonosov Moscow State University. Dear colleagues, hello, can everybody hear me well? On behalf of Nafta College, I'm very happy to join to support the congratulations to GKZ, which is celebrating its 95th anniversary. And I've got no doubts that in 5 years, we will meet you here again at your 100 years anniversary, which will be your first 100th anniversary. And we will discuss all the challenges. We're very grateful to you for the offer to organize a special ceremony on the venue of your forum. So we conducted a championship together with PetroCup project on the field and reservoir development. Yesterday, we heard this notion of the cost of reserves several times, and that's a really very important notion in this whole and long value-added chain, which contains several parts. One of the most important points here is the economic importance of that development. And this is all about the teamwork. So to develop this team discipline and to create various teams rankings for the developers, we created a special toolkit. This is an innovation toolkit, which is based on the digital technology by PetroCup. You've probably seen several monitors right behind you in the audience. Those people were working quite intensively as we were drinking our coffee. And those people were watching us, and they were looking at the maps, and they were looking at the virtual maps of the virtual reservoirs and fields. They all had the same task, they had the same virtual budget and the same time to take decisions. All of it absolutely just and fair. All the teams had the same set of activities, events, drilling, GTMs, everything just like in real life. And every team had 3 shots, the way we call them. They had 3 shots to achieve the best economic result. And at the end of the day, we arranged the teams basing on their NPVs. You can see the logos of the teams on the screen. We had 5 teams, they all participated remotely. So today we are ready to sum up the results and to show you who won the competition. On your screens, you can see the final chart. Number 2, 1, and 3. You can see the financial results of the teams after short 2 and short 3. And then you will see the whole list of the total economic indicators. In line 4 and 5, we've got Team Tandem and Team Tink with the same results. If you look at the last line, you will see that they've got the same indicators. And if you have a closer look at this, then by shot 3, Tandem result went down and the Tink results went up. If we had more time for one more shot, then the situation would really change. Bruzo team. Oh, sorry. Tumin Project is getting bronze with a result which is a little bit above place 4 and 5. Silver goes to team Общество Нефтегаз Проект. And finally, with a very little distance 5, Bruzo team. Oh, down, and the Tink results went up. If we had more time for one more shot, then the situation would really change. Bruzo team. Oh, sorry. Tumin Project is getting bronze with a result which is a little bit above place 4 and 5. Silver goes to team Общество Нефтегаз Проект. And finally, with a very little distance, the gold goes to Западносибирский Institute of Geology and Geophysics. Let's give them a hand. Thank you very much. Applause. In the lower part, you see 3 teams which were not ranked. The teams which are at the very bottom, these are the laziest teams with the budgets, those who did nothing. So that team is just watching how the field is getting liquidized. Then we've got Forsage. They did not analyze the data, so historically they used to have quite weak results. And I'm very happy to mention that all the teams that participated, the real teams I mean, went above the Forsage artificial team. They are much better than the robot. And finally, the so-called reference option team. It was created by professionals. For quite a long period of time, they developed the best scenarios for the highest economic efficiency for the 3 years. So that option is accepted as 100%. Now you can compare the percentages that the companies achieved versus the reference team. For all the teams, that was their first experience of working with this toolkit. Second, they had very little time. Even though all the tournaments are always conducted within, or let's say under some time pressure, this time it was even more difficult. The first two teams, the way we feel it, are getting a B grade, which means good. For all the teams, several days later, we will do some debriefing. We'll show you how the reservoir was organized, what were the complications and how they were supposed to see them, and what was the ideal development scenario. Each of the teams during the whole tournament was watched by little robots. The robots followed them and filmed all their results. The robots bring together all the stats and include it into a consolidated Excel sheet. We've got no time to look at all the results from the table, but I'd like to show you just the most significant things for you to understand the strategy of the teams. Here is the CAS table. The first block is economy and budget. In economy, there are no large surprises. Our leader, called Devon, we classify the teams using the names of the geological epochs, Devon. So the Devon team in NPV and Delta NPV is ahead of others. But there is one more important parameter. Carbon team was ahead of them. The parameter is NPV divided by the total budget, and they won, if you look at this only parameter. The thing is that the team budget depends on the results at previous steps. Like in life, if you have a nice economic result, they give you more money. And in this case, every invested ruble of that team gave them a bigger NPV, but that happened later, and that's why the team lost. Another thing to draw your attention to is the drilling for pressurized wells. Those who drill the pressurized wells, in spite of the fact that that was a water flooding project, and that was not just an anomaly of yesterday, that's what happens across the whole industry, the undervaluation of the pressurized wells. So all the teams really deviated towards drilling and upstream, but the Cambrian team did not drill anything, and that was probably their mistake. One more thing that says that pressurized wells are underestimated are expenses on such drilling. They had a chance to buy the water flooding system and to get more water, but all the teams ignored the opportunity, and that restricted their opportunities in extraction. Now, about the hydraulic fracturing. All the teams, but for the Ardovic team, spent very little money on hydraulic fracturing. Now, repair works. Line here. That means repairs and isolation works. I was just astonished by the D1 team strategy. They found the right strategy for the asset, and they spent all the repairs budget on the pressurizing the wells. And in that respect, the most important task was to pressure the water into the right places. Now, as for the research and development budgets, the budgets were pretty high everywhere. I am a representative of the research and development team, so our leaders have got the lowest R&D budget among others. But if you look at the structure, you will see that the study touched upon all the wells, all reservoirs, and all types. And they just avoided extremely expensive analysis because they didn't need it. In the next slide, you will see why. Next part is the recovery extraction ratios. Every time the tournament finishes, we look at the reservoir and then calculate the results for the next 80 years, and then we find out what the oil recovery ratio is. The ideal oil recovery ratio here is 68%. However, the winner is not a leader in the oil recovery ratio. It illustrates once again that the economic activity and the final oil recovery ratio might be achieved in different ways. So the thing is that the Silur team is actually winning because they've got the largest oil recovery ratio in the next 80 years. As for the winners, they've got more water than others. They are the leaders in the new wells, green wells and old wells. And if you look at line 33, you will see that they've got very few new circulations when they forced the drilling regimes. That allowed them not to spend additional money on research and development and to reduce the budgets for repair because they worked without any complications. Once again, the layer pressure. The layer pressure and how the teams work with it. They all managed to increase the layer pressure. They got one reservoir which was very bad in energy. But here I should praise Ardovik. They increased the pressure up to 3 atmospheres in 3 years. And the average pressure per well was also quite high. Another section is injection. The total accumulated injection results by teams. You see that the winners here are the same. Is that a coincidence? No, I don't think so. If you look at the next line, you will see that all the teams supported the compensation above 100%, but for Silur, the total accumulation is also quite high. Another section is injection. The total accumulated injection results by teams. You see that the winners here are the same. Is that a coincidence? No, I don't think so. If you look at the next line, you will see that all the teams supported the compensation above 100%, but for Silur, which admitted undercompensation, and that's why their pressure went down. Another interesting parameter is repression. You can see here that the winner is not the leader in repression, not at all. The competitors doubled the amounts of repression. Nevertheless, they won't manage to inject a maximum amount of water. Why so? Because they had more pressurized wells. They had 4 pressurized wells, the only team out of all the other teams. And second, they were the only team which, with the help of hydraulic fracturing, stimulated the newly drilled pressurized wells. And by the way, they were the only team which was using debris at the pressurized wells to improve the flooding system. And that was the factor that helped them take place 1. So that was a very brief analysis of how our teams coped with their tasks. The tournament was automatic. The teams were followed by the robots. At the back end, all the team's actions were calculated by robots, so the whole competition was supported by robots. And all the assumptions we made by hand could also be automated. We could create a little robot which would run across the tables and provide us with some suggestions. I think that's totally possible. You might reject, you might say, just like Will Smith said, it's just a robot. Could the robot get a canvas and draw a wonderful picture? Well, actually, we're still far from the idea that the whole development process could be automated. But if you reword the question and say, could the robot help you? The answer is yes, the robot can really help. And the strategy and the mission of our company is promoting such digital advisories. Step by step, they will be taking a bigger share of our routine operations, and they will support us in the development process. Before I finish, I'd like to once again say thanks to the organizers and congratulate GKZ. I'd really like to say thanks to all our teams for their efforts and their time and their dedication. I wish all of you, dear colleagues, a productive day and the highest results when developing virtual and real wells and reservoirs. Thank you.